Assalamualaikum and good day to everybody. All right, we continue our lessons today in week 5 of MPU 2222. All right, today's lesson we will talking about first speech delivery, second the speaker's voice, third body language during public speaking. All right, and then how to use effective visual aid, and lastly we'll talk briefly about language use. All right, if you notice, speech presentation is the process during when you give a speech. Before this we talk about speech organization and speech preparation, the process before what you need to prepare. For example, you do a speech outline and so on. So today we are going to focus on what is the process that you need to do during the speech presentation. All right, what is a speech delivery? Okay, you can define a speech delivery as a presentation of the speech that you have to do before this. I mean, what you have researched, organized, outlined, and practiced. All right, and there are four types of speech delivery. First, you can do impromptu speech. All right. Second, you can do extemporaneous, or whether you can read from manuscript, or you can just memorize the script. All right, so what is impromptu? You can understand it as when you don't prepare at all right, and you are given situation and you are familiar with that topic, you can do impromptu. All right, for example, in MOAT speaking test where you give a very few time to prepare, just write the note and then you just speak based on the note. That one is impromptu. All right, different from extemporaneous, where you involve the speaker's use of note and some elaboration of the speech, or you can understand when you prepare a speech outline, or maybe you have a full speech tag and you refer on that, or maybe you have a cues card when you give a speech. Okay, it is different from impromptu because you have a full preparation on the topic that you are going to deliver. All right, the third one is manuscript. Okay, the manuscript is very simple. When you just read aloud, okay, every single word from the speech tag. All right, this situation you can see from the person who maybe have no time, to prepare the text. Somebody will give him or her the text to read, maybe to launch the ceremony and so on. Okay, usually VVIP. So they just read the manuscript. It's very if you want to read the manuscript, you have to be careful. Make sure you have a very good intonation and you know which part that you have to pause. All right, which part that you have to maybe increase the level of your voice in a certain extent. All right, so bring the color in your speech. If not, if you read the script just you don't have any intonation, your speech will be quite dull. All right, the next one is memorization. All right, it's same like manuscript where you have to memorize. One good thing for memorization is you are free. You don't really fully depend on the script. All right, but in some situation, if you forgot the point, all right, you have to be spontaneous. All right, when you do choose to memorize or use memorization as a part of your speech delivery, you have to what we call give a 100% of full preparation, or I might say you have to do a lot of rehearsal before you deliver your speech. All right, the speaker's speed and voice is very important when you give a speech, because of if you have monotone or monotonous voice, your audience might be bored. Okay, even though if you have interesting topic to talk on. All right, you have to think about the volume, all right, the loudness or softness of the speaker's voice. In a certain part, you have to maybe speak loudly, all right. In a certain extent, in certain part of your speech, maybe you want to whisper, all right. Second aspect is pitch, or we can say whether you want to make your voice high or low. All right. Maybe in a certain part of your speech, there are dramatic scene that you have to show on your audio. Maybe you use a high pitch. All right. Maybe in the normal rate, you have to lower your voice. All right. Rate refers to speed which person talk, whether you want to talk fast, whether you want to talk slow, or you want to talk moderate. Okay, I think you have to variety on that. I learned on how and when to pause during the speech. All right. You can just pause by just silent. Okay, especially when maybe you forgot the point that you want to deliver. All right, and you want to memorize what you have to talk on that part. All right, so use pause, or maybe you can use a feelers like well. All right, you can use pause during the speech to make sure that you can take a breath, all right, and have energy, when you give a speech. All right, try to produce the accepted standard of sound and rhythm for word in a given language. If you have a very good volume, pitch, rate, and pause variety on that, yes, you can have a very good standard of sound and rhythm for word in a given language, especially if you have a large audience, right? You have to focus on every audience so that they don't get bored. By doing that, you must have vocal variety. Okay, I mean the volume must be very pitch variety, rate variety of rate. Okay, various pauses, right? And the standard of sound is good. Okay, apart from that, you must work on articulation or pronunciation. All right, make sure you check. I think you have a Google translator. You can check on that, whether how to pronounce certain words that you may be not familiar with. And accent and dialect. All right, in English we have many accent. You can choose whether you want to use British accent or American accent, or maybe other Malaysian accent if you want to, right? But be careful, you must be consistent, all right, from the beginning until the end, which accent or dialect you want to use. All right, don't confuse with the slang is different. Okay, accent is how do you pronounce the certain words. For example, you say, oh my god, that one is British, but if you use American, oh my god, okay, the sound is a bit like, okay, we are talking about more on a British and American accent you want to choose. All right, which accent that you are familiar with, and which accent that you think the audience can accept it. All right, you cannot use a British accent to the audience that maybe have less knowledge on British accent. All right, so you must analyze the audience which accent that they are comfortable with, okay, to listen to your speech. All right, one of the most important thing in delivering a speech is what we call body language, and there are many body languages that we have to focus on. One of that is body posture. All right, when you give a speech, you have to keep your leg hip length apart. All right, keep chin parallel to the floor and breathe deeply, stand still, and ensure all eyes are on you before you begin. All right, in other words, this is actually the position. The good position will be in the first one, okay, in my right. All right, the first one, okay, and the middle and the last is not the right posture that you have to use when you deliver your speech. Okay, don't bend more, or don't stand too stiff. All right, just make comfortable with your position. Okay, when we talk about body posture. Okay, apart from body posture that you have to use, you have to fully use your hand gestures. All right, there are 7 hand gestures guaranteed to get people to listen to you. whether you want to see that I'm certain, I'm being open. Okay, you have to actually play with the movement of your hand. All right, whether you want to, I'm confident to myself. All right, I have a big idea when you deliver a speech. This is the way it is. Okay, uh, this I mean from the bottom when you touch your chest. This is from the bottom of my heart to show that you are very sincere when you give your speech. And you can actually use your finger like my first point, my second point, my third point. Okay, when you move from one point to another, so hand gestures is very important, and this is one of the way to actually reduce your uh, stage fright. Okay, because when you feel nervous, sometimes your hand will shake. Okay, shaking and trembling. That's why you need to loosen up your hands. Okay, if you have a rostrum, avoid put your hands on the rostrum. All right, so you must be free from the rostrum. Even though the rostrum in front of you, you must make sure you move your hand. All right, so don't wear too much jewelry for a woman or girl, or if you wear a watch, don't keep you wear it and you uh, put it aside and then you keep it. This show that you are very nervous. So my advice is you don't need to wear any jewelries or a watch when you give a presentation, all right, unless you are used to it. Okay, unless you're used to it. All right, but hand gestures is very important. All right, to show that your emotion, all right, your credibility, and also to make sure your the transition of your speech going smoothly. Okay, beside hand gestures and also body posture, we will talk about another important thing, what we call eye contact. All right, how do you move your eyes? All right, because we aim to have a meaningful eye-to-eye connection with one person at a time, and we do not read directly from the slide for the whole time. Okay, especially if you have a PowerPoint slide when you give a speech. All right, when you want to read from the slide, make sure don't forget the audience. All right, most of the time when the speaker they have a PowerPoint slide, they just read from the slide and they show their butt or their back from the audience, so you don't have any eye connection. The best thing is have a direct eye contact with a number of people in the audience, and every now and then glance at the whole audience while speaking. Use your eye contact to make everyone in your audience feel involved. All right, you might you might move your eyes like, okay, maybe for a few seconds you just focus on the in front of you, audience in front of you, maybe at the back, in your left and then your right, and you keep moving so that you have equal attention or equal eye contact to all audience, especially if you have a big number of audience. So eye contact is very, very important. Avoid looking at the ceiling or looking at the floor, because it shows that you are nervous and so on. So please have eye contact with your audience. It's very, very important. All right. Okay, I guess facial expression is another part of body language. All right, if you have a good eye contact, if you have a body posture, but if you can't actually play with your facial expression, your speech might be look so dumb or dull. All right, all your expression is convey a lot of more than your words, and try to maintain a proper facial expression. Try to be neutral and smile whenever required. I mean, if you relate closely with your speech. All right, this is actually the face. If you are neutral, if you want to show happiness, surprise, fear, disgust, anger, and sadness. Okay, you should know how to act out a bit. All right, how to mimic your face and show the right emotion. For example, you want to give a speech something sad, you might use the last picture of this face. All right, try to, when you do a rehearsal, try to train or try to shape your face, to show the real emotion to your audience. so that your speech will be more interesting. Okay, when you talk about visual aid, is actually something that can help during your when you give a speech. It's not compulsory, but it will help a lot. All right, one of the simple example that when you use a PowerPoint when you give your speech. But apart from that, you can also use pictures, sorry, realia. Okay, the real thing. For example, you want to talk about maybe the benefit of reading, and then you bring the book when you give a speech. Maybe if you want to talk about the benefit of drinking water, so you bring a real water, all right, and show it to the audience. So we call it real or realia. Okay, the real thing. Apart from that, you can use pictures, all right, the pictures of human maybe, all right, of other creatures, animal, and so on, but the real pictures of a real thing, right, or human. You can also use graph and charts, especially when you talk about statistic uh, that need to support your claim in your speech. So maybe you want to use pie chart or bar graph, all right, maybe pictograph, okay, or bar chart, right? So graph and chart is very important, especially if you have uh, evidence to support or the claim that you need support from the your references. Okay, you can also use videos from YouTube or other sources that relate to your speech. All right, sometimes pictures is not enough, so you need to show the pictures. Sorry, the videos, right? But make sure the videos is not that it's not too long. Okay, please choose, please select which part of video is important for you to show to the audience. If not, if you choose a longer video, it might take longer time in your speech, and maybe the audience just watch the videos, they don't listen to your speech. And lastly, some people are interested to use animation, okay, the moving pictures we call it, okay, cartoon and so on. You might use it if it relate with your audience. All right. All in all, okay, I'm talking about PowerPoint. When you use a want to use a PowerPoint, make sure it's very simple. Okay. Uh, the font that you use is large enough, or the picture they use is large enough to be seen to all the audience. All right. Uh, Make sure the text used in the PowerPoint is very limited. Don't use too much word or too much word text in your speech. That's why we call PowerPoint. We just use point. We don't use a sentence, full sentence or essay in your PowerPoint. All right, effective font size usually I think is font size is 12 and above. All right, color, make sure the color is you can see the clearly the color of the font. Make sure the background contrasts with the font color of your wording. All right, and the type is actually we use something readable, okay, not fancy, right? Something readable. Times New Roman era will be good for me. All right, you can use pictures, all right, animation or video strategically. I mean, don't use because you don't use pictures or animation or videos because you want to look, you want to your slide looks beautiful, but it helps the audience to understand the point of your speech or the point that you use in your slides. All right, don't use something animation, for example, you use because you think it's a cute animation, but uh, what's happening is the animation, for example, you use moving animation, it will distract the attention of the audience, so it's not really effective. So why you need to use a moving animation, unless if you think you have to use it, okay, for the purpose of to make sure the audience understand, then it will be okay. All right, so please use pictures, animation, and videos strategically in your slide. Okay, when you deliver your speech, right, language use is very important because of it will reflect your ability to use language in your speech and your credibility in using the target language. All right, if you can look in detail on e-module page 78 and 86. All right, the first principle that you have to use is make sure the the word used is clear enough. All right, we're talking about clarity, avoid jargon and unfamiliar words. If you want to use the jargon or unfamiliar word, make sure you explain in your speech so that the audience can understand. All right. The color of the word means the preciseness of language. If you want to use a metaphor, simile, or some poetic word, make sure that the audience uh, know the meaning of the word. Whether you want to use a denotatively or connotatively, make sure the audience can understand the word, right? The concreteness, avoid using too many abstract words where you have to use concrete word. Please read the module, what is concrete, what is abstract. All right. Correctness, please make sure you use correct or grammatically correct language. All right, you can proofread your speech tag. Please check the typos and everything, whether you use noun correctly, verbs correctly, whether the sentence using the complete sentences or not, and so on. All right, conciseness, simple and direct. You are not what we call read a poem, all right, or recite a poem. You just give a speech, so the language must direct and it must very simple. The way you speak and converse with people is actually the best way when you deliver your speech. Okay, you don't need to use a bombastic word when you give a speech. As long as the audience can understand, it will be okay. Make sure you have cultural sensitivity. For example, try to avoid sexism, ethnocentrism, bias, and so on. I think we have discussed this in the previous lesson. What is sexism, ethnocentrism, bias, and so on. Don't, for example, say thing like black people when you're referring to African American, or you referring to sexist word like you say for example beach, or slut. Okay, that one is very sexism and improper word that you use, okay, to referring to female. All right. When you use for example, you want to talk about chairman. Okay, you don't talk chairman but you talk chairperson, because men only referring to men, but that post is for both gender. Okay, that's why we try to avoid sexism and gender bias actually. All right, try to avoid the cultural sensitivity, whether it referring to gender or maybe different races of us. Okay, guys. I think the conclusion that we can make from our lessons today is one. Okay, we have actually four conclusion. Okay, speech delivery can be presented in many ways, whether you want to see impromptu, extemporaneous, manuscript, and memorized. All right, the speaker's voice must have a variety and can attract audience to listen to their speech, no matter which accent you want to use, or which dialect you want to use when you give a speech. All right, body language must be used effectively, whether your body posture, whether your hand gestures, whether your eye contact, whether your facial expression must be used effectively, because body language is more important than your spoken language. Okay, body language is more important than that, because the audience will look at at the speakers first, not they listen to the text, okay, or the speech. All right, you must use effective visual aids in the very balanced way. Not necessarily if you use PowerPoint, for example, or PowerPoint slides, you use a lot of animation, and the animation you think is cute or beautiful, then you want to use it. Okay, if the animation, for example, is distracting, I think that visually is not effective. Okay, make sure you use it in a balanced way and effectively. Alright guys, thank you so much and assalamualaikum. We will meet in the question answer session inshallah in week 6.